My name is Shawnice Wooten. I am the Domestic Violence Support Unit Advocate with EVE. My main office is within Mason, within the Ingham County Sheriff's Office. However, you can also find me in the PPO office, the Personal Protection Order office, in downtown Lansing, and the Veteran Memorial Courthouse. I wanted to talk with everyone today to explain a little bit about how to file for a PPO, specifically filing for one in the COVID-19 pandemic. I also want to add that I am going to focus more on the more common situation where an adult is filing against another adult. Since there are special rules that involve a minor, that would take a little bit more extra time today. However, if there are any questions about this or about anything else I touch on today, please feel free to reach out to EVE at our 24/7 crisis line, which is 517-372-5572, or you can send an email to ppoooffice@ingham.org. Or to get connected with one of our EVE's legal advocates, or you can call me at my work cell. It's 517-449-0030. We are here to help and guide you. It can be very overwhelming to start this process alone. So we want to provide you support and share the things we know will help in whatever way we can. First, I should start and say what is exactly a PPO. PPO stands for Personal Protection Order, and it's a type of civil restraining order. It protects one person from one other person, and it can prohibit the other person from doing certain things. There are penalties if the order is violated. From now on, I'll be referring to the protected person as the petitioner and the restricted person as the respondent. There are some misconceptions about PPOs. It is different than a custody or a parenting time. It's different than an eviction or a peace order or a peace bond. It even is different than a no contact order, and that's often in criminal cases. A PPO is not confidential. You are opening a court case when you file a PPO petition, which means a public court file is created, and the respondent or anybody else that is able to look at your court file will be able to see the information you include. However, if someone was curious about your PPO, they can't find any information online. They would need to actually go to the court or else follow the court's process and getting a copy of anything that's in that file. Something that I see a lot is some confusion about a PPO versus a no contact order. So I do want to talk about that a little bit before I get into how to file for a PPO. The biggest difference is that the order gets entered with a PPO. The person who wants to be protected needs to actually start the process by filing paperwork with the circuit court. Once that PPO is entered, the petitioner or the respondent can request changes or removal by filing motions with the courts. The petitioner can even file a motion to start the contempt process if the respondent violates the personal protection order. With a no contact order, I'm referring to one entered in a criminal case. That is a condition on the defendant's bond. So when someone is arrested and arraigned and they're told what charges they're facing, the judge will set a bond and will have rules that the defendant has to follow in order to stay out of jail while the criminal case is going on. So one of those rules is often a no contact order that says that they can't contact the victim of that criminal case. The judge in that case has a lot of control over whether or not there are changes or removal of the no contact order are allowed, and the victims can't go and file a motion in that criminal case if it's being violated. And a violation of a no contact order in a criminal case is a violation of bond. There are many people who want to have both orders in place in order to feel protected, and some of those reasons I hear from survivors is that they feel that they have more control over the PPO since it's what they feel like they have control over, and the existence of the PPO doesn't rely on the existence of the criminal case and a no contact order. There is overlap between the orders and what they cover. A survivor is unsure of whether or not they want to have both in place. We are absolutely able to help in discussing all of the survivors' options to help make that choice. So what can a PPO do? It can set limits and establish boundaries. It allows the petitioner to take back control and feel safer. It can also be a starting point for pursuing other criminal charges like aggravated stalking. It can also allow the police to respond to things that usually aren't illegal, but if it's a violation of the PPO, the police can step in and enforce that PPO. To file for a PPO, the petitioner will need to know the respondent's first name, last name, their age, and preferably their birthday, and the respondent's race and sex. While it's not required, it can also be helpful if the petitioner includes descriptions of tattoos the respondent has, their hair color, eye color, their height, and their weight. And it also helps law enforcement identify the respondent if they're called to enforce the order. So now, on to how to get the PPO process started. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Veterans Memorial Courthouse does have limited hours, and it is open to the public Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. For emergency matters only, since PPOs are considered an emergency matter, you can still physically go into the courthouse to get the PPO forms. However, due to the limited staffing at the courthouse, PPO advocates are currently working remotely. Court staff is unable to provide assistance or detailed guidance with filing the paperwork. If you have a disability and go to the court for forms, however, you can ask for what they call a request for accommodation. And that will be a form to fill out so that you can get the help physically filling out the forms. Just know that they are limited into the extent of the assistance that they can provide, since they need to ensure that they don't provide legal advice. I do want to say that Eve is committed in assisting all survivors in all walks of life. So if you have a disability and are concerned about not being able to access the courthouse, please reach out. You are not less deserving of safety, and you are no less worthy of support. There are 3 different types of PPOs in Michigan: a domestic PPO, a stalking PPO, and a sexual assault PPO. For a domestic PPO, that's for petitioners who have lived with the respondent, are still living with the respondent, or they have had an intimate or dating relationship with the respondent, or they are married or divorced, or if the petitioner and the respondent have 1 or more children in common. A stalking PPO would be for a petitioner who hasn't had that type of relationship with the respondent and who is being stalked by the respondent. A sexual assault PPO would be for a petitioner who has been sexually assaulted or threatened with sexual assault by the respondent. A PPO can be entered either at a hearing or without a hearing. Someone asking for a PPO without a hearing will be filing an ex parte petition for a PPO, which means that they want the judge to decide whether or not to grant an order without having to first let the respondent know what's going on. This is an important safety tool, since having that first give notice to the respondent could potentially make it a lot unsafer for some survivors. However, if the PPO isn't granted ex parte, or if the petitioner doesn't want to use the ex parte process, then the hearing process is available as an option. If the judge does grant the PPO, then it will be granted at least 6 months. The petitioner also has an option for filing a motion with the courts to ask the PPO to stay in place. Specifically, that's called a motion to extend, and I think it's really important to say that the motion needs to be filed at least 3 days before the PPO expires. Also important to note is that the granted PPO does not need to be served to the respondent through either personal service, which means that someone other than the petitioner hands the paperwork to the respondent and is over the age of 18, or through certified mail with delivery restricted. Now, if you or someone you know plan on submitting a PPO petition, there are certain forms that you need to include for the court to accept the petition. We have great detailed instructions on our website. If you go to www.eveinc.org/filing-4-a-PPO. We also have some great instructional videos as well if you are looking for a visual, or a hearing and explanation would work better for you. Basically, you'll need to make sure that you have the correct petition form for whichever PPO you need to file for, whether that's a domestic, stalking, or sexual assault PPO. You'll also need to provide what's called a proposed order to the court that's mostly blank but has information about the parties filled in and that description of the respondent included that I had mentioned earlier. There is a specific order for each type of PPO as well. You'll need to include a petition or questionnaire, which provides the court some of the information they'll need to process the PPO. You'll need to include a case inventory addendum, which lets the courts know whether or not there are any other court cases between the two parties. And as I saved the most vital part for last, you'll need a written statement. This can be typed or handwritten. It can be listed on the form statement that has been developed by our agency in conjunction with the court and other community partners, or it can be written separately. What's most important is that you describe specifically exactly what the respondent has been doing that has put you in fear or has made you concerned for your safety. You'll want to focus on things that the respondent has been doing to you, has threatened to you, or has directed at you. And you're doing this to show the judge that you need a PPO for your protection. That is, if the judge doesn't grant your order, you are at risk of further or greater harm by the respondent. You'll want to also give the judge either the exact date that these things happen or provide a general time frame that you can best remember. Writing your statement can be re-traumatizing. It can be difficult, and it can also feel like you're reliving some of the most painful experiences you've had. It will be really important to ensure that you continue to take care of yourself. Allow yourself breaks. It can help to have a support person with you, to have that reminder that you're not alone, to help ground you and bring you back to the present if remembering the trauma can be too much. We advocates are able to be that person, that support person for you if you'd like. Even while working remotely, we can video conference with you or stay on the other end of that phone line, and we can be there for you in that moment. If you didn't have a chance to watch it, one of Eve's counselors, Betsy, did an amazing video on self-care and trauma last week. I highly recommend going back through Eve's newsfeed to watch it when you get the chance. So once you have all the forms completed and your statement written, you will need to send that file. You will need that file to file that with the court. It is free to file for a PPO, and right now there are actually a few options on how to submit the paperwork. You can file it in person Monday through Friday between the hours of 10 and 3 at the Veterans Memorial Courthouse. That building's address is 313 West Kalamazoo Street in downtown Lansing, and you'll need to go to the Circuit Court Clerk's office on the first floor to turn it in. Or right now, the court is also accepting files through email and fax. You can email your completed petition to circuitcourtrecords@ingham.org, or you can fax the petition to 517-483-6401 or 517-483-6501. Then it generally takes about one business day for the judge to review your petition and make a decision. You would want to follow up with either by email to either the Circuit Court Records at ingham.org, or you can call the court at 517-483-6500. Now, I explained a lot of this in case there are any survivors who would prefer to do this on their own, which is totally okay. However, for anyone who would like a support while filling everything out, or you would like a more detailed assistance with filling out the forms, please don't hesitate to reach out to Eve. Even though we are working remotely, our advocates are still working, and we are still here to help. You can get in touch with an advocate by calling Eve's 24/7 hotline at 517-372-5572, or you can get in touch with a legal advocate by emailing PPOoffice@ingham.org. Our advocates are also able to assist with safety planning, helping to follow up with police reports made or pending criminal cases. We can get you connected with community resources that are out there to help. also talk about next steps once you get the decision on your PPO. Issues you may have about enforcing your PPO, providing support at court hearings, or else providing supportive listening over the phone. Most importantly, we believe survivors, and we are here to support you. We often will get other calls from folks who are looking for information on how they can support a survivor that they know, whether it's a family member, a friend, coworker, acquaintance, or someone on social media. So, how can you support survivors? Well, start by believing the survivor. Validate their feelings, thoughts, and their emotions. Avoid making statements that judge them for the choices that they've made. All the steps that a survivor has taken up until this point has helped them survive, and that survivor is an expert on their own situation. Help them with what they need, not what you think they need. Once they have identified that, you can assist them with finding some resources and tools if they can't do that on their own. Saying less and listening more is key. Sometimes it feels like you don't have the right thing to say, and that's okay. What is important is that you listen and you let the survivor talk and direct the conversation. Don't press for details and don't get frustrated if they don't have an exact timeline of everything that's happened. During a traumatic event, the brain remembers things differently, so it is a really normal and common not to remember all details of what happened. And when you do speak, use reflective statements like, that must have been really hard for you, or you must have been really frightened. Remind them that they are so much more than what happened to them, and thank them for sharing their experience with you. Empower them. Give them the option to make choices, even if it is the smallest choice. Give them the power and the option to make a decision and make a difference, and help get them back to some of that control that was taken away from them. You'll also want to be patient. The survivor needs to be able to set that pace, which may be different from your experiences and from your own perception. Last, remember to also take care of yourself. Hearing about the trauma that someone else close to you has been through can be a negative impact on you. Be patient with yourself as well. And feel free to reach out to E's hotline if you need support. I appreciate everybody taking the time out to listen to me, and I hope that everyone continues to take care of themselves and do the best that they can. Take care.